Okay. Today is January. Okay. Today is January 24th, and we will resume. Rose and I are back from the very wonderful session in Costa Rica, in San Jose at Casa Zen, a wonderful Sangha and a community that's been practicing together, beginning with Roshi Kapila over 30 years ago. Are now all students for many, many years, almost 30 years, so it must be almost 40 years ago. Anyway, of Sunyano Roshis. So we had a wonderful session and also had the Jataka session. And plus, it was a great opportunity to see green leaves and hear bird songs and have windows open to actual breezes, not furnace-driven air. So if any of you can swing it at some point, we do this every January, though it may be March next year, we shall see. It's nice, very nice, to get out of the cold and into the air for our session. So we'll take up again where we left off with the Vimalakirti Sutra. Again, our very remarkable sutra. And let's see if I can find where we left off. We should have left off with Anuruddha. So let us find that. Maybe we begin actually with Mahakashapa. Let's see. We'll start here. Remember, they're all begging off. All the great disciples are begging off going to see Vimalakirti. He's a mere layman. This is, again, a very revolutionary scenario for early Buddhism, and it kind of puts to question the whole concept of, which a lot of Southeast Asia remains with, that somehow original practice was always the practice of a monastic Sangha. And yet here we have the monastic Sangha feeling a bit stressed about going to see the layman, Vimalakirti. So Mahakashapa replied to the Buddha, "World-honored one, I'm not competent to visit him and inquire about his illness. Why? Because I recall how in the past I was begging for alms in a poor village." I think we did this one. Anyone remember that? We did. Okay, very good. So, and we did Subhuti, I think. If you can look, Subhuti's question was, let's see, because he went begging and he said, the Vimalakirti came to him and said, "I'm not competent to visit him and ask about his illness, because in the past I went to his house to beg alms. And Vimalakirti took my begging bowl, filled it with things to eat, and said, 'Subhuti, if you can look on all foods as equal, that person can look on all things as equal. And if one looks on all things as equal, one will look on all foods as equal. If one begs alms in this manner, then one is worthy to receive food.' Subhuti, does this sound familiar too? Let's see. If you can cut yourself off from lewdness, anger, and stupidity, and yet, if you cannot cut yourself off from lewdness, anger, stupidity, greed, lust, anger, hatred, all the things that we're trying to get away from in our practice, but Vimalakirti turns this right on its head. Aiming for purity is its own trap. What is the nature of the mind right now? In anger, in stupidity, in lust, in greed. Can you see to the bottom? So Vimalakirti says, "Subhuti, if you cannot cut yourself off from lewdness, anger, and stupidity, and yet, very crucial point, not be part of these. That is, not give yourself to anger, stupidity, lewdness, greed. But the very act of trying to separate yourself from these things already creates the dualism in your mind. I'm in here. Everything else is out there." Vimalakirti is saying, go beyond it, but don't get stuck in it either. Subtle point. He says, if you can refrain from destroying the idea of a self, that's a big mistake. I made it 40 years ago, or more, almost 50 years ago. Don't do that. Refrain from destroying the idea of a self. No. The job that only reifies it. The job would be to see through it. See how illusory this thing that we cling to, that drives us, that we call ourself, how porous it really is. How fragile it really is, and yet it tries to be master of the universe. What a burden. But to destroy it only is to create. Ha! Got an even better self now. Don't do that. You can refrain from destroying the idea of a self and yet see all things as of a single nature. What is that single nature? It's single nature. What is that single nature? That's our question. What is that single nature? The sun, moon, stars, the 10,000 things, as they say in Zen, all seem to be different, and they are. A bug is a bug, a leaf is a leaf, a person is a person. A spot of tar on the pavement is a spot of tar on the pavement. A star in the sky is a star in the sky. And yet, Zen says, like Vimalakirti, way back at the very beginning of Buddhism, Vimalakirti is saying the same thing that Zen says, form is only emptiness. 10,000 things are of one nature. If you can see that, not try and destroy a sense of separate self. Then you may be onto something. If without wiping out stupidity and attachment, you can find your way to understanding and freedom from attachment. Very good, Vimalakirti. If without wiping out stupidity and attachment, you can find your way to understanding and freedom from attachment without wiping out all those stupid thoughts we all have, and yet to be free of them. If you can seem to be a perpetrator of the 5 cardinal sins, yikes, and yet gain emancipation. If you can be neither unbound nor bound. See, to be unbound is another concept. Bound is another concept. Buddhas are not bound or unbound. What is that nature? That's Buddha nature. It's not unbound. It's not bound. Neither one who has perceived the 4 noble truths, nor one who has not perceived them. Neither one who obtains the fruits of religious practice, nor one who does not obtain them. There is a fruit of religious practice. There are many fruits of religious practice. They're genuine, and yet to be one who attains those fruits is already a problem. Bodhidharma came to the Emperor Wu of China from India, and he asked, the Emperor Wu asked Bodhidharma, the great teacher, what merit have I gained from creating temples and publishing sutras and spreading Buddhism? And what fruits should I expect from my dedicated practice? And Bodhidharma said to him, nothing at all, no fruits at all, no merit at all. Do you see why? It's not that there are no merits or no fruits or no benefits to our practice, but setting up someone who's to get them, to receive them, who's to benefit from them, puts us back in the same old hole. Vimalakirti, right at the beginning of Buddhism, before Zen even said to exist, it's right on the point. Neither a common mortal nor one who has removed himself from the ways of a common mortal, neither a sage nor not a sage. What is it to be an ordinary person? Neither a sage nor yet not a sage. If in this manner you can master all phenomenal things and yet remove yourself from the ways that mark them, then you'll be worthy to receive offerings of food. Subhuti, if without seeing the Buddha or listening to his law, you are willing to take those 6 heretical teachers, famous people of his day, who were, had big followings and were highly regarded, but were not Buddhists, not realized in the Buddhist way. If you take them as your teachers, leave the household life because of them, follow them falling into the same errors they fall into, then, whoa, you'll be worthy to receive food. He's uncompromising, Vimalakirti. Don't take yourself out of the mess. Don't take yourself out of the mix. But right in the midst of it, can you find genuine freedom? Not an idea of freedom. The freedom to live your life and to die your death. To have a stomachache when you eat bad food. To get a sunburn when you let yourself sit in the sun too long. That freedom. Subhuti, if you can subscribe to erroneous views and thus never reach the other shore of enlightenment, if you can remain among the 8 difficulties, never escape from difficulty, and can make common cause with earthly desires and remove yourself from a state of purity. As Aiken Roshi says, there are no saints in Zen. Why is that? Does he mean that there really are no saints? All of saints are people who can put a mark on your forehead and get you to see lights or levitate or things like that? He's right. What is it to not remove ourselves from difficulty? Should we make an effort to not remove ourselves from difficulty? Somehow that seems foolish, doesn't it? Find out what he means. We all have to find out what he means. These are words about our life and the difficulties we will face. As we all know, Betty Davis said, old age is not for sissies. We're all heading for old age if we're not already well there. Why not remove ourselves from difficulties? Isn't that why we practice? What's old Vimalakirti up to? If when you attain the samadhi of non-disputation, you allow all living beings to attain the same degree of concentration, remember with the Buddha, upon his great enlightenment, said, wonder of wonders, all beings are Buddhas, fully endowed with wisdom and virtue. It's only their delusions that prevent them from attesting to this. Vimalakirti is saying the same thing. If when you attain the samadhi of non-disputation, that means a samadhi that needs no further verification, that can't be argued. Do you have it? Do you not have it? It's clear. He's talking about anyuttara samyak sambodhi, perfect, complete enlightenment. And this is not a concept. This is a reality. And he's saying if you get there and you allow, that is, you recognize that all living beings have already attained the same degree of concentration, then you're onto something. Our practice doesn't make us special or different or better than anyone else. Scary. What are we doing this for then? If those who give you alms are not destined to gain good fortune thereby, you might gain something better than good fortune. We just don't have a name for what that is. Good fortune eventually can lead to bad fortune. The wheel goes up, the wheel goes down. What is it that's beyond good fortune? He's talking to a realized monk whose job was to go out into the world and have lay people get good karma by making donations to him. And Vimalakirti is saying, those who make offerings to you are not destined to gain good fortune thereby, and those who make offerings to you fall into the three evil paths of existence. What's he getting at? He's uncompromising. He's pulling the ground right out from under Subhuti's feet. Everything that he's thought as a realized monastic of his benefit to the world, Vimalakirti is pulling it away. He's pointing to something deeper, much deeper. Will Subhuti get it? We all follow certain ideas in our practice. And every now and then a thief comes along and steals them all away. That's the person you want to see. When it's all gone, what's there? That's our chance. Vimalakirti is really quite astonishing. If you're willing to join hands with the hosts of Maras and make the defilements your companions, if you can be no different from all these Maras and these dusts and defilements, if you can bear hatred toward all living beings, slander the Buddhas, vilify the Dharma, not be counted among the assembly of monks, and in the end never attain nirvana, if you can do all this, then you will be worthy to receive alms, that is food. Can you see the point Vimalakirti is getting to? Never attain nirvana. Why is that? There's a koan that goes, a certain Buddha sat on the Bodhi seat for 10 kalpas, did not attain enlightenment. Why is that? Why didn't he attain enlightenment? What do you think enlightenment is? Who do you think is there to attain it? You can't enter a room you never left. You can't, as Vimalakirti says, attain enlightenment. Why is that? It doesn't mean you can't realize enlightenment. He's saying, accept the mind in all its craziness. Don't try to control it. Just focus again and again on the practice itself. Let the mind go, and you will find it's crazy. It wants this, it wants that. It's had enough of this or enough of that. The mind is crazy. See right into it. Don't back down. Don't go with it, but don't try and suppress it and make yourself pure. Right in the midst of the craziness. What is it? What does all that craziness stand on? Find out. At that time, says Subhuti to the Buddha, world-honored one, when I heard these words, I was dumbfounded, not knowing what sort of words they were or how to answer them. I put down my alms bowl, intending to leave the house, but Vimalakirti said to me, Subhuti, pick up your alms bowl and do not be afraid. Why do I say this? If some phantom person conjured up by the Buddha were to reprimand you as I've just done, you'd not be afraid, would you? No, I replied. Vimalakirti said, all things in the phenomenal world are just such phantoms and conjured beings. So you have no cause to feel afraid. Why? Because all words and pronouncements, too, are no different from these other phantom forms. When a person is wise, he does not cling to words, and hence is not afraid of them. Why? Because words are something apart from self-nature. Words do not really exist. And this is emancipation. All things of the phenomenal world bear this mark of emancipation. That is, they're dreamlike. All things are like a dream. Can you really cling to them with your mind? Try. Try your damnedest. See if you can. If you can, it'll be history making. Nobody has been able to do it. Try. Try to hold it. Make it eternal. See if you can. If you can't, welcome to reality. Of course, Dogen would disagree with Vimalakirti. Dogen says words are not apart from self-nature. Words themselves are self-nature. Every sound is self-nature. Every concept is self-nature. It's just that we get so easily lost in them. When Vimalakirti expounded the law in this manner, 200 heavenly beings higher consciousness of another realm, gained the purity of the Dharma I. Therefore, I say, I am not competent to visit him and ask about his illness. Then the Buddha said to Purna Maitrayana Putra, you must go visit Vimalakirti and ask about his illness. But Purna said to the Buddha, world-honored one, I'm not competent to visit him and ask about his illness. Why? Because I recall how once, under a tree in the great forest, I was expounding the law to some monks who had just begun their study of the way. At that time, Vimalakirti approached and said to me, Purna, I think we did this before, but it seems all new to me, so well, go on. You should first enter into meditation and observe a person's mind before expounding the law to that person. One does not put rotten food in a precious vessel. You must determine what thoughts are in the minds of these monks. Do not treat precious lapis lazuli as though it were mere glass. You seem unable to understand the basic capacities of living beings. You must not try to rouse their aspirations by preaching the doctrines of the lesser vehicle. Do not inflict injury on those who are without wounds. If you want them to travel the great highway, Mahayana, Maha means great, the great path, the great way. Do not show them a little bypath. Do not try to fit the vast ocean into an ox's hoofprint. We do this all the time. We try and find some concept to lodge our practice into, as if you could fit the universe, sun, moon, stars, bugs, trash, into a shoebox. We do this again and again, and eventually we begin to realize through our practice, we've been doing this our whole life, living in a shoebox. It's both terribly sad and terribly encouraging, because to see you're in a shoebox, or a matchbox, or a refrigerator box, means that you're beginning to see beyond it, or looking at it from outside. Then where are you? This is the opportunity of our practice. Vimalakirti says, don't stick people into a small vehicle, into a little concept. And all concepts are little concepts. Every concept's a little concept compared to no concept at all, which doesn't mean duh, doesn't mean be stupid. What does it mean? The sun comes up in the morning, casts a golden light. What does it mean? It's not duh, but it's not a concept either. Do not regard the light of the sun as if it were a firefly's glimmer. In other words, why have a small aspiration when you could just as easily have a big one? Save the many beings is the first of our 4 bodhisattva vows. That's a big one. Purna, these monks long ago set their minds on the great vehicle, but later they forgot their original intentions. That happens to us all the time too. We forget our great intention, and then somehow, karmically, it's so weird, we run into something like Zen, which reminds us of our own great vows, what we really want, why we were really born. We wanted to save all beings. We wanted to realize our own nature. We wanted to find our real home. We've had enough of wandering around, not fulfilling what we really, really, really are here to do. It happens all the time. We forget our original intentions. Why do you use the doctrines of the lesser vehicle, the Theravada or Hinayana. Hinayana, really. Theravada means original teachings, or elder teachings, the teachings of the elders. Hinayana means small vehicle, to teach and guide them. As I see it, the wisdom of the lesser vehicle is trite and shallow. Like the understanding of a blind person, it is incapable of discerning the capacities of living beings, whether they're keen or dull. At that time, Vimalakirti entered into samadhi, making it possible for these very monks to become aware of their former existences, that is, past lives, like in a Jataka. In the past, under 500 Buddhas, they had already planted the roots of virtue and set their minds deep, deep down, as we have, on the attainment of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. And at that moment, they were suddenly able to regain their original spirit of resolve, determination, commitment. It's not a hobby. It's the core of our life. How to realize our own nature and to be of benefit to all beings. This is the core of our life. They remembered. That's why they were here. With that, the monks bowed their heads at Vimalakirti's feet. Then he preached the Dharma to them, ensuring that they would never again regress in their striving, because it doesn't happen by floating. It doesn't happen by being touched by a guru, not in Zen. I don't know about those other things. But I was reading recently the teachings of one of the greatest Indian teachers of the 20th century, Ramana Maharshi. In part, I was reading it because our son was at his ashram in India. He died long ago, after World War II, maybe in the 50s. Roshi Kapleau loved Ramana Maharshi's teaching, though Ramana Maharshi was Hindu. And deeply realized, read his book, Arthur Osborne's book, Ramana Maharshi and Path of Self-Knowledge. It's quite stunning. What he emphasized as the only practice he felt really would make a difference is inquiry. Who am I? Is what he taught. Who am I? And he didn't make any points about, he gave darshan. He just sat silently and looked at people. He hardly answered questions unless they were important enough to respond to. People were deeply affected by him, but he never spoke about, not doing the work. Even he said, you have to do the work. And that work is the work of inquiry. He emphasized it again and again. The work has to be done. So these monks regained their spirit of resolve. They bowed at Vimalakirti's feet, and he preached the Dharma, ensuring they would never again regress in their striving for Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Now, certain teachers emphasize the striving, other teachers emphasize the quiet sitting. They're not making different points. Kapleau Roshi always used to say in Doksan, work hard, and he'd ring you out. Aiken Roshi always said, muse on that. But they were not making different points. But they expressed it quite differently. And I thought to myself, says Purna, that a voice hearer, that is someone who's only heard the Dharma, not fully realized it themselves, and that's what he considered himself, a voice hearer, should never preach the Dharma when he cannot discern people's inner capacities. Therefore, I say I'm not competent to visit Vimalakirti and inquire about his illness. The Buddha then said to Mahakaccayana, you must go visit Vimalakirti and ask about his illness. But Mahakaccayana said to the Buddha, world-honored one, I'm not competent to visit him and ask about how he's doing, that is his illness. Why? Because I recall how in the past the Buddha was once summing up for the monks the essential points in his preaching of the Dharma. Later I expounded and elaborated on what he had said, discussing the meaning of the terms impermanence, suffering, emptiness, non-ego, tranquil extinction, or nirvana, At that time, Vimalakirti approached and said to me, "Ah, Maha Kachayayana, you must not try to expound on the true nature of phenomena when your mind is concerned with distinctions such as birth or extinction. For in the end, all phenomena know neither birth nor extinction." Let me repeat that. All phenomena know neither birth nor extinction. How can that be? Here we all are. We were born, otherwise we wouldn't be here. We're going to die. We know that. And yet, Vimalakirti is saying, in the end, all phenomena know neither birth nor extinction. This is pure Zen, but what's he talking about? Then he goes on. He said, the five components, as the senses, the skandhas, the bundles that make up the nature of personality, are wide open, empty, nothing arising in them. This is the meaning of suffering. This is the meaning of suffering. The various phenomena ultimately have no existence. That is, no separate existence, no limited existence, no deluded existence. He said, this is the meaning of emptiness. All phenomena ultimately have no existence. The brightness of a star only exists in relation to the blackness of space. The swiftness of a river only exists in relation to the unmovingness of the shore. Nothing has an independent existence. This is the meaning of emptiness. Emptiness is not empty. Void doesn't mean mayonnaise, everything mushed together. We need to get clear on these things. They're bandied about in our culture now. But sometimes it's way off. Ego and non-ego are not two different things. Hear that? Ego and non-ego are not two different things. This, says Vimalakirti, is the meaning of non-ego. It sounds strange, but we recite the Prajnaparamita. Form is only emptiness. Emptiness only form. It's not a concept. Form is only emptiness, a carpet, speckled in brown, is only emptiness. Emptiness is only speckled in brown, carpet. Flowers on the altar are pink and yellow and orange and green. This is emptiness. Emptiness is yellow, orange, green, petaled, wet. Form is only emptiness. Emptiness is not separate or different from form. This is the core of our realization. This is the essence of Zen practice. To live it is something else. Lifetime of practice to really live it, to begin to get it. We can do that with every sitting. Little by little, like drops of water, it seeps in and we become wet. You don't have to have a bucket dropped on us all at once. It's some dramatic Zen enlightenment. There's another Zen way, which is by walking in the mist. Our robes become drenched over time. It's just as effective. Don't think you have to have lightning, thunder, and then a bucket of water dropped on your head, and then you get wet. It's just another concept. You can walk quietly in the mist. After a couple of hours, your robe is soaking wet. You're just as wet. Ego and non-ego are not two different things. This is the meaning of non-ego. Phenomena have never been so to begin with, and hence will never cease to be so. This is the meaning of tranquil extinction, which is what nirvana means. When he expounded the Dharma in this way, the minds of the monks were able to gain emancipation. That is why I say I am not competent to visit Vimalakirti and ask about his illness. The Buddha then said to Aniruddha, "You must go visit Vimalakirti and ask about his illness." But Aniruddha said to the Buddha, "World honored one, I am not competent to visit him and ask about his illness. Why? Because I recall how once I was walking around to stretch my legs. He'd been sitting a lot, and his legs were hurting him. Underneath there, we can see a guy who's been practicing hard. I got up to walk around and stretch my legs when a Brahma king, a god from a higher realm, named Austere Purity, accompanied by 10,000 Brahmas, gods, all emitting beams of pure light. Imagine that scene. Came to the place where I was, bowing his head in obeisance, because even the gods bow to sincere practitioners. He questioned me, saying, "Aniruddha, how far can this divine eye of yours see?" Aniruddha was known among the 10 major disciples as foremost in divine sight. I replied, "Sir, I can see this whole 1,000,000,000-fold world, that is, this galaxy, a 1,000,000,000-fold world, the Buddha land of Shakyamuni, as though I were peering down at a fruit in the palm of my hand." At that time, Vimalakirti approached and said to me, Aniruddha, this sight possessed by the divine eye, is it conditioned in nature, or is it unconditioned? If it is conditioned in nature, then it is the same as the 5 transcendental powers of the non-Buddhist teachers. If it is unconditioned, then it is uncreated, and hence is incapable of seeing anything. At that time I remained silent. But the Brahmas, the gods, hearing his words, gained what they had never had before. That is, they gained insight into the nature of dualism itself. Created and uncreated, form and emptiness, ego and non-ego. Not two, but not even one. At once they made obeisance to him and said, "In this world, who possesses the true divine eye?" In this world, who possesses the true divine eye? In this world, who possesses this failing eyesight? In this world, who possesses this aging body? In this world, who possesses this stomach ache? In this world, who possesses this ingrown toenail? In this world, who possesses this unruly mind? Tell me, please. Vimalakirti replied, "Only the Buddha, the world-honored one, is able to acquire the true divine eye. He is constantly in a state of samadhi and can see all the Buddha lands. Not just this world with its 10,000 creatures, its worlds of soil and ocean and mold and fungus, its worlds of trees and air and all the beings that live in all these realms, and then not only this solar system, not only this galaxy, but all galaxies and all lives. He's constantly in a state of samadhi and can see all the Buddha lands because he does not see in terms of duality." Thereupon the Brahma king, Austere Purity, and his retinue of 500 Brahmas, deities, all set their minds on the attainment of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, perfect, complete enlightenment. They bowed at Vimalakirti's feet, and then suddenly were seen no more. Therefore I say I am not competent to visit Vimalakirti and ask about his illness. The Buddha then said to Upali, you must go visit Vimalakirti and ask about his illness. But Upali replied to the Buddha, world-honored one, I'm not competent to visit him and ask about his illness. Why? Because I recall once in the past when two monks had violated the rules of conduct and were feeling ashamed of themselves, but did not dare ask the Buddha what to do. So they'd made some kind of ethical error and felt ashamed. We've all done that. Who hasn't ended up doing something they didn't want to do? They thought, oh, it's not right, but we end up doing it because of some old habit. We can't get free of it. Whatever that thing is, whatever it is that might make us feel shame, or did wrong. They were feeling ashamed, were afraid, were feeling so bad about themselves. They didn't want to come before the Buddha and ask for some expiation. They didn't want to reveal whatever this thing was. So they came to me, says Upali, and said, Upali, we have violated the precepts and are truly ashamed, but we do not dare ask the Buddha what to do. Please free us from our doubts and remorse. We know how difficult remorse can be as a feeling. Please free us from remorse. And tell us how we can be excused from blame. Well, I explained to them how one goes about gaining pardon. We do that at Yukai. We take the precepts. We do a repentance ceremony. This certainly helps free us. And that's what Upali did for them. I told them how one goes about gaining pardon according to the Dharma. But at that time, Vimalakirti approached and said to me, Upali, do not make the offense these monks have committed even worse than it is. You should go about wiping out their doubts and remorse at once, and not trouble their minds further. Why do I say this? Because their offense, by its nature, does not exist either inside them or outside or in between. As the Buddha has taught us, when the mind is defiled, the living being will be defiled. When the mind is pure, the living being will be pure. As the mind is, so will be the offense or defilement. The same is true of all things, for none escape the realm of suchness. Suchness. Original ground, original nature. Suchness. Now, Upali, if one gains emancipation from delusion through an understanding of the nature of the mind, does any defilement remain? No, I replied. Vimalakirti said, in the same way, when all living beings gain an understanding of the nature of the mind, then no defilement exists. Upali, deluded thoughts are defilement. Where there are no deluded thoughts, that is purity. Topsy-turvy thinking is defilement. What is topsy-turvy thinking? It is me in here, everything else, flowers, manjushri, altar, people, mats, everything outside. That's topsy-turvy thinking. Me in here, everything else out there. That's upside down thinking. Where there is no topsy-turvy thinking, that is purity. Belief in the self is defilement. Where there is no such belief, that is, in the self as a separate thing, that is purity. There's a koan in Hekiganroku where it's raining and a teacher says to a monk, what is that sound? And the student or monk says, that's the sound of raindrops. And the teacher says, no. It was the sound of raindrops. What's wrong with saying the sound of raindrops? Why was the teacher not satisfied with that as an answer? to say, oh, that's the sound of Buddha. No! That wouldn't be a good answer either. What would the answer be? Well, there is no such belief, self in here and everything out there, that is purity, says Vimalakirti. Upali, all phenomena are born and pass into extinction, never enduring, like phantoms, like lightning. Vimalakirti is now going to expound for us the Diamond Sutra. In condensed one paragraph, he will sum up the entire Diamond Sutra. Upali, all phenomena are born and passed into extinction, never enduring, like phantoms, like lightning. They do not wait for one another or linger for an instant. Try and grab hold onto one passing thought. Try and grab hold onto one passing smell. Try and grab hold onto one passing color. Try and grab hold onto a life. Go ahead. They do not wait or linger for an instant. All phenomena are the product of deluded vision, like dreams, like flames, like the moon in the water or an image in a mirror, born of deluded thoughts. One who understands this is called a keeper of the precepts. One who understands this is called well liberated. At this, the two monks exclaimed, superlative wisdom! Upali could never match this. He who was foremost in observing the precepts, Upali, could never speak like that. And I added, leaving the thus come one aside, no voice hearer or bodhisattva has ever commanded such eloquence in apt exposition. See how clear and penetrating his wisdom is. At that time, the doubts and remorse of the two monks were wiped away, and they set their minds on the attainment of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, vowing that we will enable all living beings to gain eloquence such as this. Therefore I say, I am not competent to visit Vimalakirti and ask about his own.